Hey Aspers, I just got home from the Rangemaster Instructor Conference in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and I have had a bunch of people asking me a question of, John, how do I choose a defensive firearm? What criteria should I use? How should I choose a defensive gun? Well, at the Rangemaster Instructor Reunion and Conference this past weekend, which I literally just flew home from, you can see I'm kind of look like a bum today. But I wanted to get this video out to you because what I did was I polled all 51 instructors who were there. And I have from them what they carry as their everyday carry gun. And if it's good enough for them, that might be a clue that it might be good enough for you. I think that the Rangemaster Instructor Certification is a much higher level of certification than something like, say, NRA Instructor Certifications, which I have those as well. There are about 55,000 NRA instructors in this day and age in America. Only about 800 Rangemaster certified instructors, and it's a much higher level of certification. You have to have existing handgun certification in order to get Rangemaster certified. It requires a significant pistol qualification. Got to pass the FBI qual at a 90% standard. You got to pass the Rangemaster qual at a 90% standard as well, which is a harder version of the FBI qual. So you got to be able to shoot. You got to showcase a significant knowledge of practical firearm stuff as well as legal firearm stuff. So it's a good standard of those who should be able to help students with their firearms choices. So I polled every instructor at the Rangemaster Instructor Reunion and Conference with what gun they carried every day, and the results I think are important and might help you in your decision making as well. Be very careful. I'm not telling you what you have to carry. You carry whatever it is you want to carry. I'm telling you what a clueful group of people were carrying, and so you might consider their opinions if you were in the market. First things first, out of all 51 instructors who were polled, 90% carried a 9mm firearm. 90%. Listen, in this clueful group of folks, if 90% of them are doing something, that's probably a clue that it might be one of the good things to do. Including our host, Tom Givens. He was carrying a Glock 34 all weekend. And again, almost everybody. Now, of the 10% who didn't carry 9mm, most of those were carrying it for some external reason. One, because he shot competition with 40 caliber to make major power factor, and so he wanted to maintain consistency. Two, others because as law enforcement officers, they carried 40 calibers as their law enforcement gun, as their duty gun, and they wanted to maintain consistency in their off-duty gun. Almost everybody else, with only two exceptions, carried a 9mm handgun as their everyday carry gun. Friends, we call that a clue. 46% of the instructors there at the conference carried Glock handguns of one kind or another. It was far and away the most popular handgun there. Almost half of the respondents were carrying some kind of a Glock. 26% of respondents carried M&Ps. Those by far were the two most popular guns. There was a smattering of other guns. There were 3 HKs there, 3 Berettas there. The HKs included mine. There were 2 Canucks, 2 SIGs. There was a P226 Legion and a P320. A couple of CZs, you got to have a couple of hipsters there, right? And a Canuck of all things. So overwhelmingly though, the most common gun there was either a Glock or a Smith & Wesson M&P. Those were split, mostly the M&P 9C or a few M&P Shields. Now why, pray tell, would most of these instructors be carrying either a Smith & Wesson M&P or a Glock in 9mm? Well, here's the bottom line. They want a gun that is super reliable, and they want a gun that goes bang every time they pull the trigger, that has simple controls, and is shootable and controllable so that they can put the most shots on target that they possibly can when the balloon goes up. And those two guns, those kinds of guns, are the best at doing that. And so that's why we see people have them again and again and again. Did you notice that not one instructor on that list was carrying a Springfield XD? We had one instructor carrying a 1911. One instructor still carrying an old slab sider. Let's talk about defensive rounds for just a moment. Of all of those polled, 74% were either carrying Federal HST or Speer Gold Dots. About 6% were carrying Critical Duty, and there was a smattering of other rounds as well. Another question that I asked them about their defensive ammo was it standard pressure or was it plus P or plus P plus? 68% of the respondents said that they were carrying standard pressure ammunition. About 32% either plus P or plus P plus, which we jokingly call either more P or all the P. If you ask me, standard P is enough P. So if you wanted some advice on what would be a great carry gun for you for every day, again, you get to carry whatever you want. But if you look at the sweet spot in this pretty darn clueful group of firearms instructors, what you find is this. They're probably carrying either a Glock or a Smith & Wesson M&P. That Glock or M&P is in 9mm, and loaded in that gun is either HSTs or gold dots. That's really what the choice is. So if you're not going to be carrying those, you better have a good and specific reason to step outside of that. Now, of course, you might say, but John, you don't carry a Glock or an M&P. Why not? Well, go watch my video on why I choose the VP9 for me personally. Has mostly to do with the fact that I'm left-handed. I feel like it shoots a little softer. So I have a specific reason why I don't carry in a Glock or an M&P firearm. But for most people, they're probably a better choice. Now, I did ask those Glock carriers how many of them had a bone stock Glock. No sights, no futzing around on the inside, no stipple jobs, no undercuts. How many of them had a bone stock Glock? That number was 3. Only 3 of them had an absolutely bone stock Glock. Another 8 or 9, the only thing they'd done to the gun is put new sights on it, which is a very common replacement on Glock pistols. So very few of them are running stock Glock pistols, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Glock perfection. However, it is a wonderful blank canvas from which to make an excellent defensive firearm. Something else of note that I saw there at the instructor conference was that about 65% of the instructors were carrying emergency medical equipment on them. Something like a tourniquet, like, an Israeli bandage, things that would help them if they had an emergency to help themselves or someone else with a penetrating wound like a gunshot wound. So like I've said many times, you carry what you want. But if you wanted to kind of go, what is the most clueful group of people around that are not necessarily cops, but are private citizens who are carrying a firearm every day and training other people to carry a firearm every day, and you were to ask, gosh, what do they carry? Because that might be a clue for what might be a good start for me. Glock or M&P in 9mm, loaded with either HST or gold dots. But once again, don't get angry at me. Don't leave me hateful comments about how stupid I am. Carry whatever you want. Have a great one.